right. Let's see if we can get this stream rolling. Hello, all of those few people in the chat that decided to join me. Let's see if we are alive and kicking and if you can hear me. Hello, okay. Tell me if you can hear me. That's the most important thing because it's the stupidest thing. Yes, plus plus. All right, guys, welcome to this extremely unorthodox stream. As I explained before, I'm traveling right now and I was having a lot of technical issues, a lot of troubles, specifically the internet stuff and so on. Are you in the country Slovenia? Yes, I am. I am right now, I believe it's a town of Mengeš. So it was the closest town to wherever I'm located. I'm located literally in the middle of nowhere because my wife came here to meet some of her friends and we're staying at their house and there's like nothing there. I think finally I was able to figure out something with buying local SIM card. I think the local SIM card has better connection than my what was it the word called? Not router. Oh my God, it's escaped me. Basically, yeah. My card from Denmark. Yes, fuck Russia indeed. So we're going to be talking about some of the latest news because there has been significant developments and I really wanted to get the video rolling. Greeting from Darlington Oblast, England. Very nice. Welcome, welcome. I hope you can hear me. There's apparently a airport somewhere, so hope you don't get really bothered by it. So, don't tell the interwebs where are you exactly. Putin has mailed people everywhere. You know, I'm just a guy on YouTube. Like seriously, people overestimate their value so much, and I'm like literally just a guy on YouTube. You know, it's since we're talking about it, like it took forever for people to fire at Donald Trump, right? So why would I be a priority? Not specifically for Russians. Like if there is a lot more prominent leaders and notable people that are just walking around. For example, there recently appeared a video of some Russian singer being harassed in Germany by some of the Russian tourists. And they were shouting at him that like they're gonna kill him, that if he comes to Russia, they're just gonna murder and rape his family and everything like this. So Russians being Russians in Europe as always. So, yeah, let's talk about Trump. So, two topics that we need to cover about Trump. First thing is obviously the shooting and what's the policy around that. And then obviously the pick for the vice president being JD Vance. And we're going to talk about Trump not in the context of the US politics, but we're obviously going to talk about Trump in the context of Ukraine because this channel is focusing on Ukraine. First things first, let's discuss the topic of political violence. Should or should not we kill our politicians? I feel that in my channel and my always position has been that should the intolerance be tolerated in the tolerant societies, right? This is the age-old question. If someone does something that is intolerant, if someone promotes the intolerant speech and promotes violence against the other side, should there be allowed to do this in society? My position has always been, and this is my opinion, you might disagree, that no, this should not be allowed. However, the important part that I want to state here is like there should be proper legal means to prevent this kind of activities. If those means do not exist, such as, for example, in the US society, and now we're getting to the situation where literally the state of the US democracy is at stake pretty much once again. Trump has been very open about what he wants to do. The recent decisions on the Supreme Court has also untied his hands. Now all of the legal drama that Trump was in is going to get dropped more and more just because there is now a verdict by the Supreme Court of the United States that the president is pretty much immune from everything. If you don't believe me, watch the video from the Legal Eagle. He has made a very thorough explanation on what this supposedly, very, very supposedly limited immunity stands for, and that in reality it actually is a completely almost complete immunity. There is very little that can be prosecuted for. So the president of United States is right now the king. Like he is just a second under God, if you believe in God. And there is nothing that the other checks and balances can do to stop him, basically, unless the impeachment. But impeachment procedures have not been successful in the U.S. for such a long time, so it doesn't really matter. So now we have Donald Trump that is going to be in position of acting on that intolerance that he has been promoting. So someone, for some reason, which I'm not really that much interested in, has decided to take his actions and shoot the guy. How should we react to this? Well, in my perspective, I think not all of the democratic means have been exhausted so far. I feel that there is still a working democracy behind the scenes. I mean, there is very little maneuver room that is left, right? There's literally a couple of steps. Like there's the election of Trump, and then there is a little bit of a period until his inauguration, if he gets elected. But that if is very, very important, because that is what defines the democratic society from the society that is now in struggle to become democratic. Because as soon as Trump is kind of elected and we get past the inauguration in January, at that moment, basically the democratic part of society is under a very, very serious question. So, whether or not there should be violence against the politicians, I don't think shooting of politician is a good way to go. I feel that there is still democratic ways to go through. So, despite the fact what Trump means for the democratic world, the fight, despite what the Trump election means for Ukraine and everything else, I still feel that I have more trust in U.S. society than it sometimes feels that some of the media personalities within U.S. have the trust in their society as well. Now, obviously, there has been a lot of discussion that the assassination attempt has won Trump major political points. That is true, but also we need to understand that we are not in elections. Well, I mean, like U.S. election season is quite long, but the main election season starts usually about a month and a half before the election date. So we are not yet in the quote unquote the main part of the election season. So I think there is still a lot of leeways to go up and down. So to sum it all up, this topic of Trump assassination attempt, I feel that it was not justified just yet. I think it was the presence of Trump was more of a wake-up call to all of the pro-democracy forces, and I am not completely sure that all of the pro-democracy forces have really acknowledged that the problem is there, but despite the rhetoric. And specifically Joe Biden, obviously we're waiting on that. So I want to finish this up with my last video talking about the NATO summit. I criticized Joe Biden a lot, but I want to underscore, and this is important, that between Trump and Joe Biden, there is no choice. Like, Trump is just absolute Ukraine hater. He wants Ukraine to lose, and he will make sure that Ukraine loses. Because now we know who is the pick of Trump, which is the G.D. Vance, the senator or representative from Ohio. I'm sorry if I don't know this title perfectly. He is like essentially a conspiracy theorist, a pundit of all things Russian propaganda. He is sucking very deeply on the Russian cock. I am pretty sure if you dig deep enough, you will get to some kind of Russian money being influenced on him. He is the most pro-Russian asset that Trump could have picked. So all of the people in my society, in my community, that were delusional about the fact that, oh no, Trump can actually be good for Ukraine, Now with the peak of J.D. Vance, the most pro-Kremlin asset, that I truly believe that if if there would be an opportunity to do so, and maybe there will be an opportunity, he would send weapons not to Ukraine in this war, but he would send weapons to Russia. He would put it as like, okay, we can just trade with Russia or something like this. So the positions of essentially the Trump vice president pick is in a war between Russia aggressively attacking European state. We need to support Russia. That is how far we've gone. That is how far Trump has gone. There is not much else to say, despite about it. Like there has been plenty said, but I just want us to drop all kinds of predispositions about potentially Trump being good for Ukraine. This has been done and gone for a while, but there was like it was mostly tangent. So there was like Orban coming out after a meeting with Trump and stating that Trump wants to just, sell off Ukrainian land and people to Russia to get a quote unquote ceasefire and then not allow Ukraine to join any kind of alliances. And after that, essentially let Russia have their break and then attack Ukraine at some later stage. There was the discussion about him stating that he has the great plan for Ukraine and then quoting about some of their plans that it's essentially this. Then there was the Project 2025, which was presented by the Heritage Foundation, which basically gives Trump a blueprint of the action. And then obviously Trump was quote unquote trying to get away from some of that plan just because it's super, super toxic. But it's very clear that this is pretty much the blueprint for the Trump presidency that has been presented now. And it's now more double so with the pick of J.D. Vance. But now with picking of J.D. Vance, like an open Kremlin agent, essentially, what is being said, and additional was like the backpedaling of Trump on China and Russia, critique and so on, after there was like donations and support for his campaign and so on. So now it's now completely clear, and now there is not even a discussion point anymore. Trump is just gonna slaughter Ukrainians. He's gonna sell them off to Russians for torture, and then present it as a big victory. Yes. Yeah, you can relax. There is zero chance U.S. will Russia. Alika, I think you have not been following the news and you do not understand the severity of things we're on in. So with Trump now getting full immunity and J.D. Vance is not representatives of any kind of establishment within the U.S. politics. He will, like, imagine the situation if instead of Pence that did not certify the Trump electors in the 2020 elections, there would be instead J.D. Vance that would do anything for Donald Trump and anything that Russia wants, and his goal is aligned with Russian goal to destroy U.S. democracy and stop the support for Europe. Then J.D. Vance would very, very, very rapidly send in the Trump electors, and there would be no transition of power. Trump would stay for the second term. So we need to be very, very clear where we stand, and this it's very, very dangerous. And for U.S. internally, this is a major question of what their democracy will look like, and if there is going to be a democracy. And this is incredible internal question, but we're not going to go on this. We're going to go on the side of Ukraine. So let's brainstorm. What does the pick of Trump will mean for Ukraine? Because that's the key question. If U.S. elects Trump, what does it mean? Well, if we take Jesus fuck, who is yelling, or is like some signal or whatever. So if we imagine that Trump now becomes the president, and Project 2025 that I read through majority of the 900 pages, it's a very tedious read. Like, it's horrifying, but it's extremely tedious read. So if the Project 2025 is becoming a plan, what basically happens is that NATO stops existing as an alliance. NATO does not trigger like basically what it does is it says, oh, Article 5 actually does not mean an attack on one is an attack on all, because that's not what's in the text of the Article 5. It is presumed, because there is a will for the Article 5 to mean exactly that. But what an Article 5 states is that the countries that are in alliance, they need to start negotiations on what kind of actions they should take to respond to the attack on the member of NATO. So the Article of 5 is a lot more diluted than one might imagine. So it's been sold out to us as an attack on one is an attack on all, but that's not what it states. It says that there must be a response, that there must be and so on, but it's not very clearly stated that there should be like a weapons or an army being sent. There has been a lot of backstops made to make sure the Article 5 triggering is as active as possible. For example, different member states have deployed their battle groups on the border with Russia, as an example. So if Russia attacks someone in a Baltic state, then they would be forced to fight the already nations' representatives on the territory of their allies. So if there would be some Spanish forces, English forces, Canadian forces that are located on the territory of the Baltic states, as an example. But again, this is all to reinforce the dedication to the Article 5. If there is a Project 2025 approach to the Article 5, then US basically can state, okay, we will help you, but it will cost you. The Project 2025 turns NATO from an alliance of people willing to protect their sovereignty together with the other country's sovereignty. It turns it into the racketeering machine for the United States. It essentially tries to transform the target for spending for the allies to somehow be represented as donations and payments towards the United States. And the United States will start selling their protection out to the quote-unquote allies, because that's supposedly is not benefiting US. They're using disgusting language such as, oh, US spends so much more on defense than the other parties, therefore the other parties should pay US because US spends so much on their defense. Because let's be very clear, it's not the money that is being pulled in NATO so far. It might change if we follow the 2025 logic, Project 2025 logic, but it's just what countries spend on their defense. And there is a lot of argument to be made, and this is an argument that I, as a European, has also been voicing, stating that we in Europe are not doing nearly enough to secure our own defenses. But basically, if Project 2025 is anything to go for what the approach towards NATO by the Trump's administration will be, it means NATO as an alliance will just stop existing. Moreover, the Project 2025 puts the position of US in relationship to the allies of Europe not as an equal ally, but as this big provider, this piggy bank that we have our businesses, we have the economies, we have our manufacturing goods and trading. We need to start putting pressure on our allies, and instead of benefiting from being allies, we need to treat them more sort of like trading partners, so we go into the competition with the Europeans, so we put tariffs on the European goods and so on. So the purpose is to start squeezing the Europe and European allies and all of the other allies of US, not just being ally and being on the equal terms, but start squeezing them for profits, for tax revenue, for political clout, and so on. That basically breaks down all of the Western alliance and all of the goodwill that has been built up there for generations between the Americans and the Europeans. It essentially aims to build a US-centric hegemony that will say, we're going to squeeze you for everything that you can, that you have to gain benefits to us. this is not a very good practice because it comes back to the time of the age of empires logic. It hasn't worked out, and the progress during the age of empires were not as rapid and fast, and the benefits of the economy growing is not there. So they basically are ignoring the multiplicative effect of the economies of trade. So that's the worst. It's very cynical approach and very individualistic. But it's probably very strongly resonates with the conservative and isolationists base, ignoring the economic factors, which is fine. So what does it mean for Europe? Europe, that means that we need to seriously, very seriously talk about what does it mean to have Europe without US support? Because while US said that in 2020, Project 2025, that they will maintain their nuclear shield, they will start descaling their troop presence within Europe. So when we're talking about the support for the Europeans, it means that we as Europeans now going to be hard forced into caring for our own defense. Now, I am very ashamed that we are in this position at all, that we need to worry about us not being able to defend against the alliance of Russians, Iranians, North Koreans, and Chinese. I think that we in Europe have enough resources and wealth to defend ourselves. Unfortunately, not a lot of that wealth has been dedicated to the security apparatus, and it's not being still dedicated enough. We, despite the fact that we have a lot of initiatives started, these initiatives are yet to produce major results. If anything that could go by is the deliveries of weapons to Ukraine. The allies within Europe are generally are delivering about half as slow as promised, and they're delivering half as much as promised. So even as if right now people have been asking me the questions, Georgie, on the front lines in Ukraine, we now know that US has unblocked their help. We now know that Ukraine has now signed this weapons initiative and so on. But the situation is still becoming dire, that Russians are still taking over territory and so on. And the answer to that is twofold. Well, firstly, the Ukrainian troops, and this is a very large stone and stick into the wheels of the Zelensky's administration, that they have been very reluctant on promoting mobilization, and their messaging sucked. So they were not getting enough troops, and now this is where essentially the paying part for not enough troop comes up, because the troops on the front line of Ukraine are very tired, exhausted. They sustained a lot of casualties, and they really have troubles operating, especially commanding. So there's also a question to Syrskyi here with regards on how he organizes work and so on. Then the second part is that the weapons and ammunition and resource deliveries, because a lot of these exhausted troops would be mitigated if Ukraine would have enough resources, enough firepower to shoot at Russians. But they don't. They're still in a very significant deficit compared to Russians. So right now, despite the resources started coming into Ukraine, and they are helping Ukrainians to fight off Russians, and Russians are not advancing as fast, and they're sustaining a lot larger casualties that they were sustaining before that help arrived, but they're still continuously advancing on Ukrainian positions and taking over the Ukrainian positions and preventing the Ukrainians from striking inside of the Russian territory is not really helping here. So all in all, not enough is being done. Not a lot of proactivity from the European allies. Most notably, we still have this mentality that we must follow whatever US is doing because we need to preserve this alliance. And a lot of European countries are still, for example, being stingent to not violate the US policies, as an example, on attacking into Ukraine, but also some of the other policies and so on. So overall, Europeans will be hard forced into reality in which their survival will start being dependent on themselves and not the Americans. There is obviously an awful side to it, which is that we're breaking up the Western alliance, which is I think it was what brought us the peace and prosperity that generations before mine had enjoyed so much. But more importantly, it also brings up the really good value for people to trade, to travel, and so on. But if it's not there, and if it's now we're coming back to like, okay, you Europeans, you need to think about your own defense, well, shit. Now we start thinking about survival, and this is where the at least some kind of benefits that we're gonna have the serious conversations. And I'm really hoping that the block between the northern states, Macron's France, we're gonna finally prevail over the German and the Dutch and other countries' reluctance. Well, maybe Dutch less so, but Belgian, Austrian, and other countries' reluctance within EU to actually mobilize our forces for defensive purposes. And that's why, as I say, this stream is named that we are now entering the time of high stakes, because it is at the time of high stakes, most notably for Europe. So that's what I wanted to say, guys. I hope it was inspiring. It's hard period to be in. It's very difficult to be optimistic in this period, but I still think we haven't exhausted all of the means. I am still very optimistic towards the European allies. I do believe we still have the capacity to do more for ourselves. And as a European, even if Trump comes, and even if Project 2025 starts, it's going to be devastating for the Western alliance. But I do believe that we as Europeans will continue and carry on. But I really hope that it will come with the benefits of the Labour Party in the UK to finally close in with the mainland European allies, so we're able to work together, because I think without UK we will have more problems. All right, let's see some of your questions. Pauli D. Fella, how much money do you think I would need to survive 6 months as a volunteer in Ukraine? It's a good question. I can find this out to you, but also you can just write and ask Dylan Burns. He went with pretty much almost nothing from US to Ukraine, and he's been doing it for a while now, so he can give you a baseline and how you can get around the Ukrainians. And generally speaking, Ukraine is not a very expensive country if you have some income in foreign currency. But I'm not completely sure about the precise prices right now. So it's hard for me to estimate, because I've been to Ukraine only before war. Songa Jung, do you think Trump's chances if winning is due to recent incident? I fear this is as it might hamper Ukraine aid. Well, it's not going to hamper Ukraine aid. I just talked about Trump is going to be devastating for Ukraine. When Trump comes in, like, there is no question about the aid for Ukraine. Like, that's not even a question that I'm discussing here. Ukraine aid from US will stop once Trump comes in. Like, period, full stop. That is not even going to be up for discussion, especially with the peak of J.D. Vance. The chances of Trump, I think the assassination attempt gave him the political points, but there is also a lot of discussion and kind of overview that, you know, it's also for Trump to blame, because it was essentially this fucking guy that brought all of this aggressive and violent rhetoric into the public. He was the one that started the January 6th insurrection. So there is a lot of blame for political violence on Trump himself, that it was he and his party, and specifically MAGA movement, that brought in a lot of political violence onto the stage and normalized it. So while there is some political points for him being shot, there is also a lot of pushback on that, and there is also a moment of clarity and understanding that we're not in the main political period yet. So there is still a lot of possibilities to work with this narrative going into the election part. John Post, please do not opinion about U.S. politics. You know nothing about it. This was what I like the most, because I'm absolutely sure that John Post is a Trump supporter, and this is a very how do you say, very showing of the Trump supporters, because every time that I state my opinion, right, because in my perspective, John has the right to his opinion, right? He can express that, like, you know, you're wrong, like he's stating, you're wrong about everything, you don't know anything. He has the right to this opinion. But he also wants me to shut up about my opinion. He says, like, no, you're wrong, therefore you should shut up. And this shows the democratic position of me and John Post over here. Because what he wants is, he wants all of the other opinions that he doesn't agree with to be quelled and squished and destroyed, like, right? So he had the chances, like, oh, you're so wrong about Trump, I'm going to shoot you. I'm pretty sure he would consider that option, right? Whereas me, while I'm stating that, oh my God, the Trump is so awful, like, this is my opinion, and I stated that this is my opinion, I still believe that he has the right of this opinion. And I'm stating that shooting at Trump is not the right way to go, that the right way to go is executing the democratic rights that we have. So John Post is a dictatorship supporter that's just want to quell and squash the opposition and essentially destroy every free speech opportunity that we have. So he is the most... I cannot find the right word. It just flew out of my head. So the person that is two-faced. That's like, oh, I'm all for free speech to be violence against stating about how wrong everyone is, but also they need to shut up. Fuck off. No, not all Johns, just this specific. There's a guy named John Post. Georgie, what about all angry Ukrainians against Zelensky? Well, he is a wartime president. I mean, I need something concrete to answer. It's like, are people unhappy with some of the policies of Zelensky, how the war is going? Yes. There is a lot of different aspects. Some people don't like Zelensky because they bought into populist propaganda from the other side. Some people are not happy that he didn't make elections. Some pro-Russian shills are not happy with Zelensky because he's resisting Putin. Some other are unhappy because Zelensky appoints Syrskyi and they really like Zaluzhny. Some people are unhappy because there is issues in the military and those issues have not been resolved. I need something concrete to work with because it's a plethora of things why people might not like Zelensky. But we must understand that not liking a wartime president is not the same as going against a wartime president. They might not like it. They might say, like, as soon as I have the opportunity to vote him out, I will vote him out, which is actually usually the case for a wartime leader to be voted out right after the... sorry for the bells, it's a thing. But the Zelensky, despite the lack of popularity, he's still a wartime president and he's doing his job. I am not sure what it states, what it means, but it's a very complex topic. Yeah, good morning. Cheapy Warren, do you think Mr. Trump's visit to North Korea was a smokescreen for his first year event, the war? I mean, I think, I don't know, did Trump visit to North Korea? What? I mean, he was meeting with Kim Jong-un. I mean, maybe it's not North Korea. It says like NK here, so maybe you mean something else than North Korea. So if it's something else, then North Korea, write it. Steve Sanelli, hi, Ukraine Matters. You look very relaxed and enjoying your summer. Yeah, I mean, like, I'm mostly here on a driving mission. My wife is visiting some of her friends, and I actually needed a vacation a little bit. I'm a little bit annoyed that I don't have my studios, so I cannot make videos properly, and I don't have, because I'm always driving. We've been driving this whole week, so it took me a while to catch up on all of the news and events. Do you have any desire to go to Ukraine during the war to tourist and support their economy? I do. I wanted to go to Ukraine for a while. My wife says that she will divorce me if I go to Ukraine. So as much as I love Ukraine, I love my wife more. Trump actually crossed the border without security into North Korea years ago. Yeah, that's what I'm stating. Will this bell stop? Okay. Has it ever occurred to you that maybe the reason the West never supplied enough support to Ukraine to win is because the political establishment is the West doesn't want Ukraine to win? Oh wow, I've never heard this argument before. Oh my God. I've never heard this argument that maybe the establishment doesn't want Ukraine to win. No, this argument has been made about 17 million times already, including to me to this channel. Like, it's been tackled and chewed from all other sides, and it's absolutely irrelevant. So the point is that not because the political establishment doesn't want Ukraine to win, is that they are following the protocol of escalation management. Because the answer to your question is nukes. Like, the only answer to your question is nukes. If Russia would not have nukes, we would not be in this situation. But they came up with the shittiest approach that have not worked at all, saying that, okay, well, okay, I'm gonna eat my words back. So I'm taking my words back. Sorry for that. No, it is working. So the approach is escalation manage. So we essentially deliver the weapons to Ukraine so they can fight, and we turn this initiative for Russians into the bloodbath. We sacrifice as much Ukrainians as we can, so the Russia then feels that what they done was wrong, and then they go back themselves. Essentially, they want to change Putin's mind. And they do it as a long-term initiative. They want to squeeze the Russians out, and they want to do it by destroying whatever stocks of weapons they have, by essentially burning it in Ukraine, and by squeezing down the Russian economy. It's an absolutely horrific plan, and I talked about it very well in the last video. This plan is brutal to Ukrainians because it basically states we're going to pay for all of the time that Russia takes inside of Ukrainian war by Ukrainian blood. They don't want Ukraine to, quote unquote, dominate Russia, to win Russia over as a fast, because they say it's like, oh, maybe then we're going to have some kind of a resurging event of Russia just recombining their forces and attacking again. No, they want to state essentially that Russians go into long term, they feel the pain of a longer war, and then they will change their minds and go back. This has been expressed very clearly by Jake Sullivan, Joe Biden, and everyone around them. And that's their policy. But there's plenty of other countries that are really rooting for Ukraine to win. One of them is like Denmark or the Baltics. They are very clear that Ukraine must win. But because they're part of the alliance, and because US has such a strong say in that alliance, the countries are not acting on their own. That's it. I hope this argument is going to be ending on this. Like, other than that there's like, no, they actually don't want Ukraine to win. It's like, then it's like, oh my God, that's everything else is a conspiracy. Do you have any desire? Okay, I already read that. Sherman NX, have you read Agenda 47 of the official agenda of the Trump administration? Project 25 should not be linked to Trump. It's not this. It's not his. Sherman, I think you're very naive. Okay, like, I think you're very, very naive. You're like in the same category of people. It's like, but Trump never said that he will stop supplying weapons to Ukraine. It's extremely naive perspective that you're having. It's like, because your perspective is completely broken by the facts. That all of the people surrounding Trump stating what is Trump agenda, that his pick of J.D. Vance very clearly states what his agenda is. So, no, it's like, right now he's in a political fight. So he will obviously not say directly what he wants, because that's not his point. Like, you're stating to me like, oh my God, there is something on the Trump website, you should believe it. Like, anything Trump says is not a complete fucking lie, all right? Like, the person is known to be a pathological liar. And you know what pisses me off the most? Is instead of embracing this and stating, yeah, this fucking guy is a pathological liar, but I like him because, like, I don't know, I hate Democrats. At least that's honest, right? But you're trying to gaslighting me here, trying to state it's like, no, Trump never said that he's not going to support Ukraine. He actually has an agenda. And that is like pure gaslighting. You're talking about the guy that lies about every second statement he's making whenever you start fact checking him. So if you want to support Trump, and then be honest, just deal with this. Like, yeah, he's a pathological liar and so on, but I like him because like he has charisma, because he represents my values. Maybe I'm a little bit racist. Like maybe I do think that all of this woke agenda needs to be squished. At least be fucking honest. All right. Yeah, naive is putting it nicely. Yes, yes. Is Donald Tusk an improvement? He seemed to prod Scholz the coward. Wait. Is Donald Tusk an improvement? Question mark. He seems to prod Scholz the coward. Donald Tusk. Donald Tusk is a very pro-Ukrainian president. He is very good. The new agreements with Ukraine are very nice. There has been like something that went under the radar is the security agreement with Poland and Ukraine. The part of that agreement made it the news, which was that Polish air defense were aiming to shoot down missiles over Ukraine, but that initiative was squashed by the Biden's administration because it goes against their policy of non-involvement in conflict, essentially. The other parts of that agreement, however, are absolutely stunning. It basically is an alliance agreement of almost unifying the production powers of their defense sector between Poland and Ukraine. So that agreement allowed if not merging is maybe the wrong word, but basically Polish military sector to now work for the benefits of the Ukrainian military, and Ukrainian military almost able to directly put orders for the Polish defense industry. So that it's a very good agreement, and it is going to bring huge benefits for Ukraine in a longer term. Did you really read sections related to NATO in Project 2025? Because though Project 25 is this topic, but with respect to NATO, it's okay. No, it's not okay. It's not okay. I read the whole thing. It's fucking horrific. It's awful. It absolutely breaks down the whole alliance. It takes the core point of the alliance, the attack on one is an attack on all, and then dilutes it. It also breaks down the alliance of the equals and makes it's like we are the US and we're providing the security benefits to everyone that has it. We are taking the troops and the non-nuclear response in Europe, and we're taking it away, and we're making sure that Europeans should be working more to defend themselves. It's fucking awful. What are you talking about? Do you think that Belarus is going to stay an issue on the border to help Russia? If they do you think another country like Poland will step in? I told you already for a while that Belarus is not an issue for now. And just recently, Belarus pulled off all of their forces from the border from Ukraine. So Belarus is playing a big old pretend game for Russians' politics. GMG Fat writes, you said you read part of it, and now you said you read the whole thing. Pick your lie. Firstly, fuck you. Secondly, I said I read majority of that document. Like not all of the 900 pages. I skipped some of the internal politics stuff and so on. Everything with relates to the European politics, Ukraine and everything I did. If you're here like to just say, it's like, oh, but you didn't read the title page or some shit. Fuck right off. Just get the fuck out of here. You did not read all of the Project 25. It's 900 pages. Again, fuck off. I just explained what I did. Oh my God, it's so many pages. No one really is going to read the 900 pages. Yeah, unless they are a YouTuber that covers politics and is interested in some of the things in details. Okay? I also read a lot of other stuff. Okay? Jesus fucking Christ. I am a data nerd. Like, I'm a guy that digs deep into like data analysts, spreadsheets, and so on. I hate working with people. Like, to be honest, I expressed this many times. I don't know why this channel is popular. Okay? Because I'm a motherfucking nerd. Like, I like reading into documents. I like going through the articles. I like looking into interviews. I like analyzing a lot of these things. This is the things that I'm good at. What I'm not good at is being a public speaker, is being tolerant to others' opinions, and specifically being tolerant to bullshit. And that's why it's crazy for me that a person like me is getting some kind of following where some of the other nice guy people don't get the recognition. But if we're here, it's great. We at least can support Ukraine. Yeah, fuck off. Why don't you read it yourself? Yes. My question is, how the fuck did the kid miss? Again, I don't think that killing Trump is the way to go. Like, I don't think it's going to be good for U.S. democracy to kill a presidential candidate. I still think there is a relevant democratic ways of going around Trump. But it requires mobilization of the U.S. society. And again, majority of Trump is a eternal problem for U.S. It's. I think we in Europe we should be able to survive this. Would you agree that the only option for Trump losing is Biden dropping out and being replaced with someone like Gavin Newsom? I don't know that much. Like, I don't know the other candidates as well to know who will be a better candidate. So I think you should listen to maybe Jake or some other political commentators that can give you a better opinion. I think whether Joe Biden should or should not drop out, it's a question to internal politics. But as I stated before, I vote for anyone but Trump. However, if it's Joe Biden or maybe some of the other Democrats, I would consider it because Joe Biden. I don't support Joe Biden's approach to Ukraine, but you know that already. Can you calm down? No. Can you calm down? I'm data nerd at times. Now give us a frigging wave, mate. I don't know what that means. Georgies, please ignore these bananas. You're on holidays. Focus on your tan. I cannot get tan because I'm susceptible to skin cancer, so I cannot really get tanned. The Russian divide and conquer reminds me of Sun Tzu's strike strategy. Allen's is next. Is communist China also giving play in dividing NATO? Yeah. China is very much our political enemy right now, right? China, while they don't support Russia directly, they will benefit greatly if the Western alliance falls apart. If Europe and US starts essentially going, instead of the alliance partnership where we stand behind each other, into the trade war competition style negotiations, then it's a huge benefit to China. It's an incredible win for China. Not a question, just an observation. For a while I was wondering why I express myself the way I am. Must be the Latvian gene. Fuck everything and say the way it is. Love you, man. Sveicienu no Filipinam. Thanks, man. Yeah, so, I don't know. Like, not that I want this channel to die, because we're doing great job. Like, people, especially the guys from Ukrainian armed forces that are sending the videos, they're stating the things that, like, wow, thank you so much for helping me out and so on. But I don't know. Like, I'm not going to be pretend that I'm something that I'm not, right? And that's fine. Don't get assassinated. I'm a guy on YouTube. Like, even if I get assassinated, it's not going to change anything. I don't give a shit. I'm just a guy. Like, literally no influence whatsoever. Majority of impact of this channel, let's be very honest, is not me doing it, right? It's you guys that are watching this and donating and continuously supporting Ukraine, because I don't have an option to write all my direct representatives a mail every week, but you can, like, because you have a community. So I am irrelevant. That's the whole point. Why must you continue to must represent the hopeless side of the story? Democrats push hope. Maybe, maybe. I hope the Democrats push hope. I'm just stating that Trump is not very good for Ukraine. You don't have a bright orange head, Georgie. They may not miss you. Yeah, fair enough. Darius, I really like the idea of UK, Poland, Ukraine, Baltics alliance. Wonder where that went. Uh, yeah, but I would also add to that UK, Poland, Ukraine, Baltics, and Nordics, because Nordics are very, 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 very pro Ukraine. Like pretty much all of the Nordics are dedicated to make sure Ukraine win. So I think it's because right now, first and foremost, there has been some work done to that alliance. In the recent NATO summit, while there was not a lot of decisions for Ukraine, there was a lot of other decisions that were extremely relevant for NATO. So things that were discussed and made on this alliance was strengthening the NATO as being the central hub for operations to support Ukraine. So when we're talking about the where did the support for UK, Baltics, and Nordics and other countries and Poland went, firstly, there's a lot of bilateral deals with Ukraine. But secondly, in the latest NATO summit, they basically established some kind of procedure that would allow forming coalitions of the willing within the NATO platform. So but the countries would be able to cooperate by using NATO mechanisms to help Ukraine more if they wish so. So that's kind of the answer to your question. That alliance that you mentioned is possible right now within the existing framework of NATO. Did you friends with Arthur Recchi? We're not really friends. We interacted a couple of times a year ago, but not much. I know he's on honeymoon right now, so but we're not really friends, no, unfortunately. I would say we're closer friends with Jake Bro than with Arthur. Okay, let's see if you have any more questions. Yeah, I'm sorry this became very much Trump-centric discussion, but that's okay. Okay, I'm gonna wrap up this stream very soon. My battery is slowly dying, so I'm gonna try to hold for the next 9 minutes to make sure that we can finish it up. So I'm sorry this stream ended up being very Trump-centric. It's just getting Trump elected changes a lot in the security of the region, specifically European region. So it's very relevant for us to understand the stakes, and it's very relevant for us to understand that if we want Ukraine to get the support, we cannot just rely on things being okay by themselves. It requires us to act. And when I'm saying act, I'm not saying go against and shoot our political opponents. No, I'm stating that you must be conscious, you must come in and properly evaluate the situation if you're an American taxpayer and you're an American voter. For us in Europe, I think this only makes that the message must be that we must put more and more pressure on our elected politicians. So we do more, maybe not even for Ukraine, but for ourselves. That Trump's America is not going to be a faithful ally, and we must do more of ourselves. And most importantly, I want to put more optimism on the table and stating that Europe is doing more, that we are, as you see, like for example, Poland made this agreement where there is a closer cooperation. I wish we start doing more of these kinds of agreements with Ukraine, where other parties will, where Ukraine would have access to our production facilities and is able to produce their weapons, for example, on our production facilities, or components for their weapons on our production facilities. David in the Grand Prairie, Texas. Why attack the democracy-loving Democratic Party and Joe Biden at this time? Now, listen, like, Joe Biden is not, like, because Joe Biden is not a saint. Look, like, the fact that there is a Trump and how bad the Trump is doesn't mean that Joe Biden is perfect. I don't think he is. Like, he is doing awful job in Ukraine, in my perspective. That he is killing so many Ukrainians, and he's like really one of the drivers why Ukraine is getting drip feed a lot of help instead of getting a lot of stuff right away and outright winning on the battlefield. If it wasn't be for Joe Biden's policies, and it would be someone else's that would support Ukraine fully, then I believe that Ukraine could have won already in 2022. Before Russia was able to mobilize, they, with enough weapons, they would able to crush the Russians. So the fact that Joe Biden is not perfect should not be a question. And maybe this should be a discussion whether or not should Joe Biden be replaced or not. But that's not for me to say. What I'm stating is that despite all of the problems Joe Biden has, and I think there's nothing wrong to talk about problems, I really think that Trump is an absolute nightmare, not just for Ukraine, not just for Europe, but democracy itself. Not a question, but I was always in favor of Europe being more independent of US anyways. The United States flip-flops a lot and isn't always dependable. I agree, Ignis, me too, right? One of my major positions was always that I feel that Europe is being too passive. The Merkel's Europe, I hated to my guts, the Merkel's positions on a lot of things. I hated that we cannot protect our core European values of democracy and our core values against the Russians and so on, that we are buying their gas and trading with the non-democratic regimes. I think it should be stopped. I think that if non-democratic regimes wants to get some of the benefits of the democracy, then they need to start implementing some kind of democratic procedures in their country. If they want to get profits from democracies, they need to start benefiting, they need to start diluting their dictatorships into being more democratic states. And I think we have been very passive on this, being afraid of our own power. I think democracies should not be afraid of their own power. I think democracies should be having big fucking guns, both in a sense of military, but also political, and make sure that it's us that are ironically dictating to dictatorships what their country should be like if they want to have our goods, our money, our investments. Being a IT nerd, as you say, would it be possible to get a good overview of what Europe can gather on weaponry? So far, I find that that information is fairly muddled. I mean, a lot of that is hidden, but there are a couple of very well-known institutes that are studying, like about what kind of weaponry Europe is delivering to Ukraine. Obviously, weapons productions it's a high-level access topic. But there are options to get it. There has been options to go around it. So you can never get the perfect picture of European weapon productions, but you can get a general perspective. Why not read the entire question? Oh, sorry. I will read the entire questions. Yes, it's a good point. That is a right-wing for-profit news millionaire thing to replace JB Facts Twitch streaming of the goats. What? Okay, I read the entire question. It didn't make it better. You're telling me to be quiet now, hypocrite. No, I don't tell you to be quiet. You have the right to your opinion. Hypocrite is the English word you're looking for. Wow, dude, you're twisting things just like the regulated corporate media. I don't even know what the fuck you're talking about. Fuck off. Yvonne May, thank you for a support stream. Yes, Slava Ukraini. Hi from the summer house. Yes, thank you, thank you. With regards to money, that this piece of shit was just writing about me, how I'm like all for money and so on. Guys, I'm not dependent on this channel. This channel, I will run it even if there's like 2 people watching it and I get demonetized on YouTube, it doesn't matter. So if you want to support the channel, I will accept your donations, which is good, and I will use majority of that profits to send to Ukrainian armed forces. That is where the money from this channel, majority of it goes. But if you want to support this channel, don't send money to me. Send money to one of the charities for Ukraine. I don't matter. This channel doesn't matter. Like, don't get me the money. Like, I don't need it. Okay? Right, I'm fine sustaining myself on my primary job, sustaining my wife. I'm not dependent on YouTube. Send money to Ukrainian armed forces. Send money to the groups that are supporting Ukraine. This is the only thing that I want to do. I don't care for you to support me financially. I really appreciate it whenever you get me, like, buying me a coffee, saying me thanks, it's so on. It really warms my heart. But if you want to be really efficient and to make me still happy, send money to Ukrainian armed forces directly or participate in one of our fundraiser where I don't even have the access to the finance whatsoever. Please support Ukraine. Don't support my channel. You don't like what I say, unsubscribe, it's fine. Go watch someone else. It's all fine while you are supporting Ukraine. Support Ukraine because Ukraine matters. I don't matter. This channel doesn't matter. Ukraine matters. Support Ukraine and so on. That's it. Don't be like this piece of shit. All right? It's a troll. Yeah, I know it's a troll. Because like he says, like, read the whole question, but like there was nothing in his question whatsoever of substance. It's a complete useless thing. Okay, my computer is now dying. I'm gonna end the stream here. Thank you so much, guys. I'm still loving you so much. Support Ukrainian armed forces. Support Ukraine. Vote for the people that will support Ukraine and democracy. We are in a high stakes period, so now your actions matter. And if you decide to not do anything, that is an inaction, and at this moment, it's gonna go basically to the other side. So act democratically, execute on your democratic